So 2 years is a very, very long time. And also, judging on how potentially popular the project might be, we might be locking up a lot of DOT. If the DOT is actually locked in the Crowdloan, obviously it is hibernating DOT, right? It's not actually doing anything. It's not liquid. It's not helping, to power the economy or anything, but just sitting there. And also a lot of folks' feedback on, we could wait 48 weeks for the Kusama Crowdloan, but 2 years is dramatically so much longer than Kusama, and what can we do about it? So we come up with this new product called LCDOT, Liquid Crowdloan DOT. Basically, what it does is you still contribute DOT, right? So the whole concept hasn't changed. You still contribute DOT, you put it in a Crowdloan, and then you help Acala to launch. The major difference there is we will be able to issue folks who participate in this way a one-to-one DOT to LCDOT token. And then this LCDOT token will be issued to you once Acala goes live, right? So then you actually receive 2 tokens once Acala goes live. Obviously, your normal ACA reward as well as this LCDOT. Why would you need an LCDOT? LCDOT is basically an early liquidity for the DOT that you locked in a Crowdloan, right? And then the first thing is there will be a pair, the trading pair between LCDOT and DOT. So for folks who, for whatever reason, if you do want your DOT back earlier, you could do the trading there. And then the second thing is LCDOT makes almost a perfect collateral assets in the DOT ecosystem because it is almost risk-free, right? Because the DOT locked in the Crowdloan is sitting at Polkadot relay chain. And then in 2 years' time, it's going to be trustlessly released back to the contributors. So the LCDOT is almost risk-free. And it's as good as the DOT. So they can be used as a collateral to mint stablecoin. And as well as there are already a number of DeFi protocols that plays and generates additional yield for DOT-based assets on top of Acala, right? So then by holding the LCDOT, all you have is more options. You could just hold it, right, and do nothing. And then in 2 years' time, you get your DOT back. You could do that. And then the second thing is you can sell it off. So if you do want to trade it for dollars, for DOT, you can do that. You can trade it. And then the third thing is if there are any yield opportunities available, either on Acala or on other apps built on Acala or even other chains connected to Acala, you can have the option or choice to use the LCDOT to participate in other DeFi activity. And then, in that sense, we kind of release the real power. Using DeFi as your assets can be in 2 different places right at exactly the same time without compromising each other's utility, right? So we are doing Crowdloan at the same time as DeFi and other stuff at the same time. So this is how LCDOT works. And obviously there's there are a lot of details that you might be asking. So, today is mostly just giving you an idea that there are alternatives to just a standard way of contribution. And then we're still keeping the standard way, right? So it's not like, it's basically you can do both. You can do the standard way, directly contribute to the Crowdloan on the Polkadot, or you could contribute to the Acala Liquid Crowdloan Vault so that you can actually mint this LCDOT and be able to use in other places. So there you go. I think one of the most frequently asked questions is this. So that's it. And in terms of ways to participate in Acala's Crowdloan, last time for Kusama we have a website, so this time there will be a website as well. So a lot of this is for you to actually get your head around what are the options and then think ahead. Maybe how you want to allocate certain portion in certain options, but through the website it's very straightforward. Basically a couple of clicks and you can finish your participation. But option 1 is direct contribution, and then you receive ACA, you lock your DOT on Polkadot relay chain, and then you get it back in 2 years. And then option 2 is this LCDOT option, liquid crowd loan dot. You contribute and stay liquid. Well, because the way we set it up, you can have a lower minimum contribution amount, just one dot. You also receive ACA reward. You also receive this LCDOT, which is basically a receipt of your contribution, which is redeemable for the dot in 2 years' time if you still own it. In between the 2 years, as I mentioned, you can trade it, transfer it, DeFi it, or whatever you want to do with it. And then there's 2 other options. Option 3 and option 4. I think there's a typo there. You can obviously use. You can participate via supported exchanges and also mobile wallets, right? So all of those will be listed on the website for you to get ready. So.
Cool. There were a couple of questions in chat that I'll just answer. So one of the questions was about minimum. So you can see here, the minimum is less for option 2 where you're using LCDOT. The minimum of option 1 is 5 dot. And then people were asking what happens if they sell their LCDOT. So by contributing to the crowd loan, you're locking up your dot. And then when we distribute the ACA, when Acala launches, we'll distribute LCDOT with that. So you'll get all the LCDOT and all the ACA all at the same time, right after Acala launches. So that's very soon after Acala's crowd loan. If you went on and sold your LCDOT, you would have no tokens to go back and get your original dot, that you contributed to the crowd loan. So you would need that LCDOT to then go back and redeem that for your original dot to get that back. So if you did sell it and you wanted to get your dot back, what you would have to do is you would have to buy more LCDOT maybe in 2 years, right before that unlock happens. Get your LCDOT back in whatever way you want, and then you have the token that you need to redeem for the underlying dot. So there's going to be, I'm sure, a lot of strategy around this that I'm sure everyone in the community will talk about how to go about this. But bottom line is option 1 is just like the standard contribution, contribute dot, you get ACA, and then after 2 years, the dot is unlocked. And then option 2, it allows you to get liquid. It allows you to get this LC dot token and do whatever you decide to do with it over the 2 years, and then you can redeem that for the underlying dot after 2 years.
Yeah, and these 2 options are not mutually exclusive, right? You can do both.
Yeah.
So just by comparison, option 1, the reason why it's option 1 is the purest way, right? Because this is the official way for participating in the Polkadot crowd loan as well as Kusama crowd loan, for that matter. So that's why we always put it up as number 1, and that's always there for you to choose to participate if you want. And then for the option 2, so this has to go into mechanics, right? So for the option 2, well, Dan, if you can go back up in the previous slide. Yeah, so you can see for option 2, you're actually contributing your dot to a liquid crowd loan vault managed by Acala, right? So there's a temporary period of time before the Acala blockchain launch, you are contributing to the vault. And then as soon as Acala launch, this vault will go on to the blockchain and then become decentralized. So there is a short period of time, you're kind of trusting Acala to manage this vault, right? So I think if there's anything, that's the caveat or the so-called disadvantage, and that will be it, right? But the way that we are handling it is once Acala network is launched, and this whole thing will become on the blockchain and managed by the blockchain. You can actually track all the activities and things like that, and the redemption as well as managing the LCDOT are all going to be managed on Acala blockchain trustlessly through something like a smart contract, but it's on a Polkadot sense, it's called pallet or module.